Sergio Perez reacted to rumors about him announcing his retirement at the Mexican Grand Prix by posting a clip of Jordan Belfort screaming,
"I'm not leaving!"
Many people took that as confirmation that it was all a piece of juicy gossip and left it at that. I believe there's more at play at Red Bull, and Checo's days at Red Bull are numbered. I've gathered all the information out there, so let's dive into it. I'm Wimbo. Here's 3 seconds to leave a like. It's safe to say that Perez never really consistently did what was expected of him at the Milton Keynes team. He had some highlights, there's no denying that. Still, most of the times he was mediocre at best, and a lot of times downright bad. The debate about whether Perez is staying or getting replaced has been going on for a while now, and he's running out of excuses. For a long time, his fans could excuse Perez by saying the car was built specifically for Max Verstappen. Some of them even going as far as saying it was sabotage. A lot of these silly conspiracies have been put to bed by Perez himself, and the comments about the cars at Red Bull from Alex Albon on the High Performance podcast also cleared a lot of things up. With Red Bull admitting a while ago that the development went in the wrong direction after Spain 2023, it is believed Perez started struggling from that point onwards, whereas Max Verstappen was better at driving around these issues. The Red Bull development team started working hard to fix those issues, and we saw a more competitive Checo in Baku. The way the car handled was more to his liking, and things looked up for him until he didn't pay attention to Sainz moving over after a failed overtake on Leclerc, which saw the Spaniard overtake him, and then they crashed. Sure, the blame was mostly on Sainz, but Perez, fighting for his seat despite signing a new fresh contract, should have moved over a little bit. Being the moral winner doesn't change the fact that you scored 0 points. After that, Perez was pretty bad again and failed to make it out of Q2 in Singapore. There seems to be a new wind blowing through Red Bull, and that caused Daniel Ricciardo to be replaced by Liam Lawson. It's widely believed that Lawson is in that seat to prove himself to be promoted to Red Bull for next season. I'm really happy with that development. Although I'll miss Ricciardo, Lawson looks like a solid guy and a great driver. I think he can be quite feisty too, even though he's from a very laid-back place called New Zealand. This is why there are rumours about Perez retiring, and even the funny tweet he placed couldn't stop these stories from being spread. It started with F1 journalist Joe Sayward sharing some interesting rumours. He said that Red Bull and Perez had worked out a plan to announce his retirement at the Mexican Grand Prix. The replacement he mentioned is none other than Oscar Piastri, who's managed by former Red Bull driver Mark Webber. He based his idea on seeing chinks in the armour at the Woking-based McLaren team, with the number 1 and 2 fight between Piastri and Norris as the main reason. In the meantime, McLaren Jr. Gabriel Bortoleto was told not to join Audi F1 as there might be a possible opening at the McLaren team soon, and this is whilst Bortoleto's manager Fernando Alonso is pushing him to get that stake F1 seat. I wonder how this will evolve. I see Joe Sayward on Twitter all the time, and he's a funny guy. I don't remember him being right very often, but he did manage to get a huge load of Mexican insults flown at him.
Me cago en la mierda.
Te voy a partir tu madre, cabrón.
¡Hijo de la gran puta! Y vete pa'l casa del carajo!
Christian Horner's latest appearance on the F1 Nation podcast only made it worse for Checo, as it confirmed what was rumoured all along. He said that Lawson's seat in V-carb was done for Red Bull Racing rather than for V-carb on its own. He pointed out that Perez had a contract, but he needed to have an eye out for what comes next. He talked about whether juniors like Hadjar and Lindblad would step up in time, and the reason why Ricciardo was in V-carb was also to be a backstop for Perez. Talking about Ricciardo, he said that Helmut Marko wanted him out as early as the Spanish Grand Prix, but he made sure Daniel had more time. Those two are never 100% in agreement. I feel Horner said this so Daniel Ricciardo fans hate Marko more than they hate him. As to say,
it's not my fault, it was his fault.
Horner talked more about how Ricciardo never convinced them enough, even in better races, to see him replace Perez, who started the season well and then had a major slump. He also talked about Yuki Tsunoda, and praised him for being a fast driver and that it was important to see Lawson square up against him as a Japanese driver has been in F1 for 4 years now. He'll be seen as an excellent data point. An interesting conversation followed about youth versus experience. The performances of Ollie Behrman and Franco Colapinto draw their attention, praising them for their veteran-like drives this season. So if these F2 drivers are this good, then that should bode well for a driver like Hadjar, who's currently P2 in the F2 standings. Horner said that until they give these guys a chance, we won't know. He said, "The young guys, they get it. They're hungry, and they just drive the wheels off it." And then he praised how prepared those youngsters are and how well they preserve tires. He finished by leaving the biggest ominous clue about Checo when he said, "The ideal scenario is for Perez to find his form and rediscover the shape he was in at the beginning of the year. But as you know, in this business, 2 weeks is a long time." So the guy who hired Perez and Ricciardo to get a bunch of sponsors in, who undermined every attempt Helmut Marko had to put Red Bull Juniors in, has turned like a leaf and wants to test all the Red Bull Juniors now. It was Christian Horner who said in June that Red Bull is more than happy to welcome the likes of Mexican wireless telecommunications company Telcel to the team. Perez also has deals with Disney, Mobil, Claro, Nescafe and KitKat. It is also believed that the viewership of Formula 1 itself is a whopping 500% more in Mexico since 2016. So it seems very likely that Red Bull is selling a whole pile of merch there. Still, the old Red Bull didn't care about the money. That company earns billions, and the race team used to be great advertising, and their juniors are all over the grid. It seems like Horner is finally moving back into that direction again. Thank for that. Like, I'm not complaining, but he sounds like he's making all these brilliant plans while it was him who stopped all these young guys from coming in. In any case, it looks like Red Bull is back to the old ways with chucking young drivers in to see if they'll sink or float. I like it. It's about damn time. And I'm hoping that if they promote a young driver like Lawson to Red Bull, they will compare him with Perez's previous results and not with Verstappen's. I hope they will help him as much as they can in finding the right balance and setup, just like they have been doing with Checo. Something I feel Albon deserved too, but never had. So this brings me back to Perez and his feisty tweet. I'm a movie buff, and I think it's typical that he picked a movie scene of a businessman who's forced to leave and defiantly stays. In a sense, he's saying that they need to drag him out there and he won't leave without a fight. It's given me a sense that the Mexican driver knows what's hanging above his head and he won't make it easy on Red Bull. That he won't retire out of his own free will. I expect a lot more drama to come, and as I'm not a big Red Bull fan anymore, I can't wait. I love it when things pop off. I want my subscriber count to pop off. Subscribe. Take care now. Doei doei.